load a quilt onto an HQ Avante frame the Quilt Lizzie way. We're going to start in the back with our backing. I use hat pins. I have my leaders marked as to the center. And I'm using a small quilt for this demonstration. I'm going to find the center of the back of the backing. I'm going to pin it to the center of the back of the leader. I personally do not put my pins right side by side. I put about my palm in between the pins. Can you see that? You might want to come around this way. I find that the leaders are 11-12 inches long, so by the time you roll your backing up, you're not going to have any problem keeping the backing straight. Pause. Hey, we started in the middle and we're going to work to our left. This helps you keep any puckering or what I like to call blousing out of it. When you get to the very end, take your pearl tip or whatever pin you're using and turn it back. It'll save you a lot of stuck fingers. Now we're going to take the rest of the back and we're going to go to the other end. Pause. When you get to the end, I like to add another pin close to the end for extra support. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use the friction of the front leaders to pull the backing onto the back. So straighten your backing all the way out to the front. Nice and flat. You don't need to worry about it picking up pleats or anything along the way. Set your ratchet and just roll it up. The ratchet came loose. And leave yourself just enough hanging down that you can pick up this back leader. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pin the backing to the front leader. Come under, bring your leader over the top, like so. And find your center again. Now, you can be real precise about it, but I think you'll find that when you start doing this, as long as it appears to be laying pretty flat here, it's going to work out fine here. So, here's our muslin. We're going to find the center, and once again, we're going to pin from the center out, which gives you a smooth install. Now, I'm noticing as I'm looking at this that this piece of muslin is not cut perfectly straight, so I'm going to advance it a little past here at the bottom so you won't get that kind of loosey-goosey looping thing that can happen on the sides. So again, pin onto the leader, which I do this a lot so I can do it really fast. And turn your pearl at the end to keep from poking your finger and bleeding on stuff. And we're going to go this way. And I need just a couple more pins to finish the job. And you'll notice I'm taking 2 tucks with each pin. Up, down, up, down. And I like to put an extra one right here at the end, again, to avoid loosening and blousing. Now, your back is on, and if you'll notice, think of a biblical scroll, and you'll see that you kind of came up under both of them. And I'm going to bring this backing up to here because now I'm going to put on my batting. So give me just a second, I'm going to pull my batting out and we're going to install our batting. I am using an 80-20 batting product, which I find gives my quilts a nice loft. And I've got more than I need because it's longer, but I'm going to have a little spare piece left that I can use for placemats or whatnot. And I'm going to pin my batting to the bottom of my backing. Not with a lot of great intensity, and you don't need to get wrapped around the axle that there's a little hanging off here because it actually makes it for a nice clamp. When you get ready to use your HQ clamps, it'll hold on tighter. We're only going to put 3 or 4 pins in here. One about every 12 inches is sufficient. Now, one thing you need to know before you load a quilt is the dimensions of your back and your top. And by that I mean, that one's a little too close. You need to be sure your back is bigger than your front. And you need to be sure that you load it so that you don't run out at the bottom. But there's another video for how to fix that if that does happen to you. Now, conventional wisdom would tell you that you could just take this hand crank and start doing this. This one down here. But what happens is it's pulling on the back of the batting. Watch what happens. See how that pulls? You can't really do it that way very easily. You don't want your batting to get too much pressure on it. So let's just bring it forward, and with bigger quilts you'll understand why this is so important. It rides against this muslin real easy, but you need to be careful. My pins are back there. So we want to set it in here so that it can just be pulled forward and not catch on the leader, or let the friction will work against you with the batting. Just kind of work it like this. If you can manage to do it with it hanging over the back, great, save yourself some time, but this is the solution. See how I'm just flattening out my batting as I go? And I'm rolling it onto my take-up leader, my take-up bar for the backing. And as you can see, we're going to have a little too much, so we're going to solve that problem and keep the rest of this. So here's all we need to this point. See, because I've gotten to the end of my leader. And we certainly don't want to sew into the leader, and we don't want to sew a pin into our quilt. So here you go. Bring it up one more step, just enough to give me the opportunity to baste the batting to the backing. Now I can see through my batting, you may not be able to see it, that the leader is pinned here. We're going to set the ratchet on the uptake, on the take up, and then take a picture of this. Ready? On the Handiquilter screen, you can see that you're in regulated mode and you have 10 stitches per inch. I'm going to use my left handlebar and take my stitches per inch down to 4 to create a basting stitch. And then I'm going to, with whatever thread's in the machine, because you're never going to see it on the quilt, I'm going to stitch down this batting so that it's secure, and then I can put my top on. So down the thread, back up. I just did a black and red quilt, so you can see my thread. It's going to show up really well. And I'm just making sure I don't stitch to my leader. And I'm going to go straight across. Now, you may want to set your channel locks. But if you're comfortable just pulling it along yourself, that's great. Done. Batting is now securely basted to your backing. And we have some excess that we need to remove. So let me get a good pair of scissors that'll cut well. And by stitching that down first, this makes it a very easy trim. So here we go. You can also use your Handiquilter batting scissors, which were not within my reach. And there you go. The excess batting has been removed. And we're ready to load the top of our quilt. So let me get my top. Now, one thing that's important to note is that you need 6 inches all the way around your quilt. And I'm going to show you today how to deal with a quilt that is not 6 inches all the way around, which can be a bit of a bummer when you're trying to clamp. So we have our top, which is a beautiful applique piece. And we are going to load our top now onto the final remaining bar. This is your bar for your tops, your quilt top. And again, I'm going to find the center of it. I have my leader marked with an X as to the center. Here's my center. I don't have a really scientific way. I'm not crazy precise. I don't know that I should admit that to everyone, but I think you I have a saying, finished is better than perfect, and we do finish your quilts, and they turn out pretty good. So again, I'm starting in the middle, and I'm going to work my way to the left, and then I'm going to work my way to the right. And you can see I don't have a lot of space here. So I was happy to leave this extra batting, so if I clamp right on the edge of this muslin, I'm going to have, looks like I may have got a little prick on my finger. Keep Band-Aids handy when you're working with pins. So here we go. This one goes on real quick. The reason you want 6 inches bigger on the back than the top, aside from the fact that you'll be able to clamp, is that when you finally stretch your quilt onto the frame, you're going to find that it enlarges a little bit. Because even though we iron everything down, we want to pull it flat to quilt it. And when you pull it out, it's going to stretch and flatten out. So here we go. We've got this on here. throw this to the back because, again, we're going to pull it forward with the bar. Okay? Set your clamp. Now, one thing people ask me a lot of times is, what about if this wrinkles along the way? Well, if you think about it, run your hands through here. This is why we basted our batting down. If you think about it, this is all going to work itself out as you quilt forward, but it becomes more obvious after you've done the quilt. So here we go. And I know that's making a little bit of a pucker, but we're just going to run our hand through here. Straighten that out. This has got applique in it, so we have to be careful with it. And just gently bring it forward. And I always like to start as close to the top as I can, even though I know that there's plenty of length in this backing, because you don't want to run out at the bottom. And like I said, there'll be another video to discuss how we remedy that situation. But there you go, your quilt is loaded. And now all we're going to do is just baste down the top to hold it in place. Start in the middle, bring up your bottom thread. Again, we're going to select our thread here in a few minutes. And we're just basting, and the binding is going to cover up that. And I know I have a bobbin that's about to run out, so I'm going to go ahead and use the bobbin up. And I'm just going to take my left hand and stretch this to hold it in place. And just smoothing with my fingers. And then come straight down the right side the same way. Handiquilter has such a nice, smooth track system. Very easy to maneuver the machine. My scissors don't want to come this morning. Get yourself a lanyard. We call this our jewelry, so you can reach for your scissors easily. And again, I'm going to bring up my thread. That keeps you from having any stragglers on the back. We'll take care of all these threads here in a minute. And right down that top we go. And down the side. Whoops, I missed it. You go backwards and forwards, whatever you're comfortable with, and there you go. So there you go. We've trimmed our threads, and we're going to bring the quilt top all the way up to full throat space so we can decide exactly what we're going to quilt. And the next order of business will be to choose our pattern. Thank you so much.